Okay, so in this problem, we're going to be comparing numbers, deciding which one is greater. In this case, we're working specifically with fractions and in one situation where there's a decimal. And so thinking about, not necessarily in terms of a number line, but size is going to be very helpful here. And so if we look at this first pair here, we'll notice that they have the same exact denominator. And so what we're going to be thinking about is which one is more, 12/17 or 13/17. Well, all you're doing if you have 13/17 is adding 1/17 to 12/17. And so you're going to have more if you have 13/17 than if you have 12/17. And so in this case, 12/17 is less than 13/17. Or we could say 13/17 is greater than 12/17. So that was a little bit easier, but now to make it a little bit more difficult, in this second pair, we have the same numerator, it's 13 in each case, but the denominators are different, 16 and 17. And so what we're going to be having to ask ourselves is which one is going to give us the most stuff. And what we will do is we will consider a simpler situation of what if I compared 1/16 with 1/17. Well, if I compared these two, then if you think about taking a pizza and chopping it up into slices, you can notice that the more slices you have, right, the more you divide it, the smaller a single slice becomes, right? And so that means that 1/17 is going to end up being a smaller amount than 1/16. And so if I could get 13 of these 1/16, and then I compare that with 13 of these 1/17, then using this same reasoning, I'm getting 13 bigger slices on the left than I have on the right. And so 13/16 is going to be bigger than 13/17. All right, so then looking at this third one, we have 15/16 and 16/17. Okay, so now thinking about it a little bit differently here, we have two different denominators and we have two different numerators. So it's different than the other two, so it's getting a little bit trickier. But what we want to notice in this case is that each of them are one fraction, if you want to think about it that way, away from being the number 1, right? So if I take 15/16 and I add a 16th, I have 1. And if I have 16/17 and I add a 17th, I get 1. So just comparing those, looking at those two numbers, that's what I'm seeing. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to ask, well, which one is closer to being 1? Because the one that is closer to being 1 is going to be the bigger number since they're both less than 1 to begin with. And we're going to use that same piece of pizza to think about this, that same reasoning we just used. So we have 1/17 pizza slice away from being a whole pizza versus 1/16 pizza slice away from being a whole pizza. Now, since 1/16 of a pizza is bigger than 1/17 of a pizza, that means that 15/16 is further away from being a whole pizza than 16/17. And since 15/16 is further away from 1 than 16/17, then we know that 15/16 is going to be less than 16/17. Okay, so notice how it was that same kind of reasoning, but maybe a little bit backwards, because we're thinking about how far away this fraction is from being 1. And then lastly, we have 1/2 and 0.75. In this case, it's helpful to convert one into a fraction or the other into a decimal, and you have to take your pick. You should just always go with what you find easiest. I think in this case, it's easiest to think of 1/2 in terms of a decimal, which is 0.5. So in 0.5, if 0.5 is 1/2, and then I have 0.75 to compare it with, which one is bigger? Well, just think about dollars and cents. Half a dollar is less than 75 cents, and so that means that 0.75 is bigger than 0.5.